The only people that I've seen Lee pick fights with have been not the people that he's used to seeing on a daily basis from a cultural perspective.
What do you mean?
You know exactly what I mean when I say that. The longer Lee sticks around, the more everyone will become aware of his intolerance.
Well, even a week off with the NBA Finals was not enough to ease the tension for the men on The Bachelorette, as singer-songwriter Lee continues to cause drama.
Yeah, but luckily we found a man brave enough to relive all of the drama in our Toyota People Pick of the Day with us, Season 1 Bachelorette contestant and former Bachelor, Bob Guiney. Welcome back, Bob. Good to have you here.
I know. Nice to meet you in person.
I know. We've Skyped so many times. Yeah, right.
We were talking about how the episode started out on a pretty heavy note with the tension that Lee caused in the episode, clearly getting to Rachel. Watch this, you guys.
Being a black, I'm gonna get emotional. The pressures that I feel about being a black woman and what that is and how, I'm gonna talk about it. I get pressured from so many different ways being in this position. And I did not want to get into all of this tonight.
Now, Bob, you are not a woman and you're not black, but you do know that both of those things are true. But you do know what it's like to go from being just a suitor to all of a sudden being the person handing out the roses.
Yeah.
What do you feel for Rachel as you see her going through
Well, I mean, as a white guy, I felt a ton of pressure on that show, because you don't want to hurt people's feelings just in general, but then you also feel like if you fall into any certain pattern of how you pick things, it's like stereotypical for who you are as a person, and so you're always trying to avoid that. And I think for her in particular, I mean, yeah, the elephant's in the room. Obviously, she's a black woman, the first black lead they've had on the show, which is long overdue. But at the same time, it's like, she does have a lot of pressure because I think no matter what, she can't pick the right person.
Sure.
There's going to be a group of people who are going to be upset with no matter what she does. And I think, that comes with the territory from doing the show. But I think when you put, the fact that, she's a black woman in there, I think that adds the pressure.
I think her genuineness helps soften all.
I do too.
She's
I love
real,
her.
obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, thinking back for you, what was the hardest part about this whole process for you?
Honestly, I think it was just, I felt like I was hurting people's feelings, and I don't think this is any prize by any chance.
No, this is a prize, Bob.
Let's just put it out there. I mean, the other elephant in the room is sitting here. But I didn't feel like I was any prize either. So it was like one of those things where you're like, I don't deserve to send any of these people. But at the end of the day, it's one of those things where I think it's just a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
You also don't want to be the person who tanks the franchise. It's been around. For me, I was the fourth Bachelor.
Early on,
this thing is going downhill fast.
But here it is. You laid the foundation.
That's right.
We're going to talk a little more about Lee in just a minute, but let's talk about one of the high points in the episode first. Rachel's one-on-one date with Dean that saw them soaring high over Hilton Head, South Carolina. Let's take a quick look.
Okay, yank it again. Oh my God. When Rachel started dive bombing our blimp, I lost a couple of years off my life, I think.
I think this is amazing.
Dean, I swear to God, if you don't do this, you better regret it. Get over here. Get over here.
Just don't kick any levers when you step over, please.
Oh, he's so cute. He's afraid of being in a blimp. I love it. I love this date. What did you think of this whole date?
I just got robbed when I was the Bachelor. I didn't get to do anything like that. I mean, look at that. They got to be in the Goodyear blimp.
Yeah, that is right.
And then, I mean, I just think she's adorable. I mean, I love how she gets genuinely excited about stuff. And
about him.
And about him. I like their
Specifically
relationship.
him.
Yeah, I like that.
Now, look, it seemed like, Dean and Rachel, they connected well, especially after he revealed that really emotional story about how his mother had died. I mean, I was tearing up yesterday.
Yeah, I was too.
It was unbelievable. And so, look, he's the youngest suitor. There's this, about decade or so, half-decade age gap between them.
Yeah.
Do you think that affects things tremendously?
I think if, she's obviously already in her head a little bit, about what she's doing and who she's picking and things of that nature. So I think that could come into play. But at the end of the day, who cares? Their chemistry was great. And I think, maybe have a younger guy. I mean, I've always, my wife's quite a bit younger than I am, and I love her for that. Her energy and her enthusiasm for things is different than mine, and so I really feed off of that. And, I think that ultimately that could be a great thing.
Yeah,
I'm rooting.
they have fun.
That's winner pick right there.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, the massive group date that Rachel ended up on next crashed harder than a Led Zeppelin. The band's
Nice.
competitive side really came out during rap battles, a push-up contest, and yes, even a spelling bee. Watch this.
Peter, your word? Coitus.
Could I have that in a sentence, please?
If you're lucky, you'll engage in coitus with the Bachelorette.
A man can only hope.
You're not getting an acquaintance.
Q-U-I.
Nope. No.
C-U-I.
No.
By the way, they made the kids put on earmuffs.
Thank God. Yeah.
Honest question: would you rather be stung by a bee or participate in that dumb?
I mean, I think I'm allergic to bees, and I'd rather be stung by a herd of bees or whatever.
Than that, right?
So the Bachelorette's evolved a lot since you were on. The guys
Yeah.
are really competitive, not just in the competitions, also just in the house. Do you think that the drama and competition that we're seeing between the men is normal at this point, or is it kind of elevated?
It's become normal, you know, for how the show goes. I mean, when I was on The Bachelorette with the guys, I mean, I hate to sound like the guy who, you know, I went uphill both ways to school barefoot and stuff like that, but we were genuinely friends. And I think the biggest difference was we also realized that she was going to pick who she was going to pick, so it didn't matter what was going on back at the house. We didn't have to beat each other at everything she's going to, you know, and she ended up with the right guy. I think, and a lot of that came from the fact that we all were supportive of her finding the right guy, and I knew it wasn't me halfway through the show. I was just glad to be there for the ride, and you know, Ryan and you know Trista are still together to this day, so it was awesome. But it's become so competitive that I think it's really kind of crazy to watch the show.
It really is.
Yeah, I would not last a minute on.
A few of those guys on the boat kept the shirts on. I was like, that would be me.
Yeah. I would have been wearing the orange life preserver just to bulk up with layers.
We have a t-shirt over it. It brings us back to Lee, guys, who somehow survived the rose ceremony at the beginning of the episode and managed to cause even more problems. Watch.
Lee egging people on, instigating. You swim in that dark, heavy water, man, you just might drown.
What the hell? It looks like there's a fight that's gonna happen. Blood's gonna be shed. It's freaking me the hell out.
What now? What happened? What the hell is happening now?
Oh, Lee.
He's the worst. I'm surprised he's still there. I'm really sad that Diggy went home.
Me too, I like
How
Diggy.
shocked were you that Lee's still around?
So people always ask me this question all the time. They're always like, do the producers influence who you keep on the show? And truthfully, I was always like, no, they didn't. But I gotta believe that at this point, they're like, I mean, because these producers have to know what I mean, I would love to say some bad words.
Yeah, right.
Lee is.
Yeah.
Lee sucks.
Yeah.
I can't watch that show and not walk away thinking, God, if I met Lee somewhere, I'd love to fight him. And I'm not even a fighter.
Yeah, I was gonna say, even when she's giving him the rose and saying his name, it just seemed like she didn't want him there.
And the whole room was kind of like, ugh.
Yeah, right. And he even admitted that he wants to manipulate. He wants to like stick it to everyone and like cause problems. Anyway.
Yeah, stirring up the sauce constantly.
Well, here's a question for you from your perspective. How do you think Rachel feels about Lee now that it's airing and she sees all those interviews and things?
I can't even imagine.
Not there.
The hardest part about being on the show is that you don't see what goes on, you know, on the other side of the coin. And I can only imagine what she's going through right now watching it. I remember there was a girl on my season who everyone was like, oh, she's trouble, but I really liked her. And then when you watch the show and you're like, I guess she is kind of trouble. You know?
Turns out they were right.
Yeah, I can only imagine what she's got to be going through right now watching this guy just basically, he's not there, obviously he's not there for her, because if he were, he would just swallow it a little bit.
Musician, all that stuff.
Yeah.
You got to think, here's a guy
I can't believe he hasn't brought out his guitar like the guy on last season who just strummed.
I think it's on the way.
It's on the way. Next episode. All right, Bob, thank you so much for being
Thanks,
here.
guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great to see you.
We're excited to watch you in just a little bit on the Today Show.
Thank you.
Hey guys, be sure to watch ABC's The Bachelorette 2 nights next week on Monday and Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. That is a lot of drama.